impact of pandemic on the Caribbean among key matters addressed at CARICOM Heads of Government meeting. At UN General Assembly high-level meeting, CARICOM member states call for new multilateralism. And Guyana convenes flagship event as chair of Group of 77 and China. These are the stories in this week's edition of CARICOM News Time. I am Michelle Nurse. Thanks for joining us. CARICOM Heads of Government met virtually on the 29th of October under the chairmanship of Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. The heads of government examined the health, financial, and economic development implications of the COVID-19 pandemic and also dealt with other matters, including blacklisting. The heads of government also had discussions with special guest Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. Kendall Morgan has the details of the meeting.
The meeting acknowledged the Caribbean community's relative success in the fight against the multifaceted challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic, but it recognized that reopening and recovery require a careful balance between reducing restrictive measures and ensuring adequate actions to reduce importation and the spread of new cases. As a critical next step, the heads of government welcomed the global COVAX facility as an initiative for access to safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines. And they welcomed the fact that 6 CARICOM member states were chosen for the Advanced Market Commitment, a financing instrument to support the procurement of vaccines for low and middle-income economies. The other member states will access the COVAX facility as self-financing countries, and their down payment has been facilitated by the European Union, CARPHA, and the Pan American Health Organization. The heads, however, expressed their deep concern that even in this global pandemic, the per capita income criterion is still being used to determine how countries access financing from the COVID facility. The heads of government acknowledged that building back the COVID-affected economies would have significant capital requirements and a multifaceted financial plan. They therefore agreed to the concept of a Caribbean Economic Recovery and Transformation Plan, CERT, which was devised by a regional team of experts under the leadership of Barbados Prime Minister Ms. Mia Motley. In recognizing the critical importance of rebuilding the tourism industry, the heads welcomed the proposal by the St. Lucia government for the preparation of a joint tourism policy. A working group will formulate a policy and report back to the heads by year end. A prime ministerial subcommittee will provide political oversight. It will be chaired by the Bahamas and will include Antigua and Barbados, Jamaica, and St. Lucia. The CARICOM private sector organization got its designation as a CARICOM associate institution, and heads also agreed to an MOU with the organization for cooperation on the further implementation of the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, the CSME. The heads strongly condemned the European Union's continued blacklisting of CARICOM member states through unilateral and arbitrarily determined standards, and in the absence of any meaningful prior consultation with the affected members. They stated that the disproportionate treatment of CARICOM states is a breach of the rights of CARICOM citizens, and they called on the European Council and European Commission to desist from the practice. The heads had a fruitful exchange of views with the United Nations Secretary General, particularly on the devastating impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the efforts to become the first climate resilient region. This 41st regular meeting was held via video conference. The 32nd intersessional is scheduled for the 23rd to 24th February next year in Trinidad and Tobago.
As the United Nations observes its 75th anniversary, CARICOM member states are underlining the importance of multilateralism and the need for financing for sustainable development, particularly in these challenging times. CARICOM foreign ministers and the CARICOM Secretary General addressed the UN General Assembly high-level meeting on the 26th of October in observance of the 75th anniversary. They recognized the value of the organization and pledged to work to ensure it is fit for purpose. Ambassador Erwin LaRocque, CARICOM Secretary General, took the opportunity to highlight the importance of access to concessional development financing and to call for UN action on tax governance. The speeches can be found on UN TV. And as CARICOM member states continue to play leading roles in international affairs, Guyana, in its capacity as chair of the G77 and China, convened a virtual flagship event on the 29th of October. The theme for the meeting was maintaining a low-carbon development path towards the 2030 agenda in the era of COVID-19. The event brought together about 130 ministers and senior policymakers of developing countries to facilitate awareness and partnership building and knowledge sharing on climate action amidst the COVID-19 crisis, while recovering towards the 2030 agenda. Discussions also zeroed in on climate change, including climate finance. His Excellency Dr. Irfan Ali, President of Guyana, and Mr. Antonio Guterres, United Nations Secretary General, were among the key speakers at the event. President Ali called for an integrated response to the threats of the pandemic. He said the pandemic has threatened the fight against climate change as countries have been forced to shift their focus from environmental crises which threaten lives and livelihoods.
Interrelation of current pandemic and sustainable development goals is a source of concern for all, since the pandemic is depleting our financial and human capital assets. Our strategies to combat the impact of COVID-19 pandemic have forced countries to increase their internal and external debt. This is likely to lead to negative growth and exacerbate poverty. When these happen, destruction of our fragile natural resources will be the first casualty. We should not allow our gains in sustainable development to be eroded by the pandemic.
CARICOM has congratulated the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines on the country's 41st anniversary of independence, which it celebrated on the 27th of October 2020. In a congratulatory message, Secretary General Erwin LaRocque drew attention to St. Vincent and the Grenadines' achievement of global recognition in fields such as academia, music, and diplomacy. He recalled the overwhelming support the country received from other nations in its successful bid for a seat on the United Nations Security Council. Secretary General LaRocque said the support is testament to the esteem in which St. Vincent and the Grenadines is held. The Secretary General also acknowledged the unwavering commitment and leadership of Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves as chair of the community during this unprecedented time resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. Meantime, St. Vincent and the Grenadines heads to the polls on the 5th of November. The elections are expected to be a straight fight between Dr. Gonsalves' Unity Labour Party, the ULP, which will be seeking its 5th consecutive term in office, and the New Democratic Party, the NDP, being led into elections for the first time by lawyer Dr. Godwin Friday. In the last elections in December 2015, the ULP won the NDP by 8 seats to 7, the same one-seat margin as the previous election in 2010. For these and other stories, visit the CARICOM news site at today.caricom.org or the CARICOM website at caricom.org. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please continue to observe the COVID-19 protocols. Be safe and see you next time.